Hey, I'm Ava Laura.
And I'm Jessica.
And this is Black Leave America podcast, where we highlight holistic wellness, travel, mental health, and self-care through traveling outside of America to reconnect and rediscover who you are. It's time for us to leave any condition that disrupts our peace. Black Women Leave America opens your eyes and explores new ways of living, but more importantly, new ways of being. Because sometimes you have to leave in order to find yourself. Hey, y'all. Welcome to Black Women Leave America. I'm your host, Ava Laura Gaither. My co-host is not here with us today, but she's certainly here with us in spirit. And today I'm really excited to have our guest, Barb Brown, and really telling her story of why and how and how she left America and what she's doing now. I know she's currently in Belize, and she's going to tell you a little bit about herself, and we're just going to get started. Girlfriend to girlfriend, just, talking about her journey. Welcome to the show, Barb. How are you doing today?
Hello. I'm doing really good. Thank you for having me. It's so good to be here.
Absolutely. I noticed. I was like, we got the same colors on. So right there.
Hey, we bobbing.
The same colors. Yeah. So tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, who you are, and why you decided, you know what, I'm out of here. As we say, deuces.
Right, exactly. That's my favorite pose when I do pictures now. It's like, hey. Yes. So, I'm a mother, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an executive, I'm a consultant, I'm a wellness coach, I'm a philanthropist. I'm like all the things, right? Fully hyphenated, but I think that just represents who we all are. We all have multiple areas of focus, and for me, mine has just happened to have been in the business and most recently wellness space. And so that's where I sit as a semi-retired executive. And I'm here in Belize, and I like to say I'm here living my best life because when I left the United States, I made a choice to be 100% authentic to myself and to only do the things that I enjoy doing and appreciate doing and that are beneficial to me. And so that's really what I spend time doing here in Belize. And it shows up in a lot of different ways, whether it's sailing, whether it's community service, whether it's traveling, whether it's sitting still and breathing from day to day, or serving in my capacity as CEO of She Retreats. So it's a lot of different things, but it feels good at the end of the day. And that's really why I'm here.
I love that. And, that was actually my first thought when you were saying that we all are multifaceted beings, right? And we have different interests, we have different gifts, different skills. And I think one of the things that does happen here, it is in the US, but I think it's a part of human nature is we get pigeonholed. As in business, there's this thing of you have to niche down.
Yeah.
Right. You have to niche down. You have to pick your target audience. You got to focus on one thing. And when you are multifaceted, it's very challenging because you're always getting these ideas. You want to pursue, your different gifts and your different skill sets. But really, you're told, no, you can't do that. You got to be one part of yourself.
Right. Singularly focused. And then not only singularly focused on what society tells you should be focused on. Like, this is the profession that's going to be good in the next 10 years. So you go and do that. Or this is what's been in your family for so long and you want to pass on this generational thing. So you go and do that. Or, oh no, women don't do well in this space. Oh, so you pull out of the thing that you're most interested in. And there's a whole lot of that still goes on.
A whole lot. I mean, and I know as an executive, you really know, because corporate is a whole animal.
Yes, it is.
That's a whole animal. So how long have you been in Belize?
I've been here almost 4 years. So I came down to Belize for the first time in November 2018. And I already knew that I was going to leave. And it was really just a research kind of, check the vibe kind of trip and see where I, wanted to land. And I haven't looked back since then. It's been a really interesting 4 years, to say the least. We can talk about some of those interesting things.
So of all the places, because you were from the DC area where I
Yep.
am, right?
Yeah.
Why did you decide on Belize out of all the places that you could go?
Yeah. So I'm not so sure that I decided on Belize. I like to tell people that Belize found me,
Mm,
because for some years before I left, I had played around with the notion of working overseas. Notice I
mhm,
didn't say living overseas, but
mhm.
leaving the United States for a career. And at the time that I was thinking about it, I was working in intelligence. And so, I was looking at those allied countries
Gotcha.
who might have a job that I could, that whole federal
Yep.
government consulting thing. And it just didn't fit for a number of reasons, my life circumstances, financial, whatever. So I just never did it. So I put my international research on hold,
Mm,
and another colleague and friend of mine sent me an email one day with a link to some real estate here in Belize. And literally she was just like,
okay.
it was like one of those funny emails that friends send to friends, not really serious,
Mhm.
that, oh, you should look at this, but by the way, you're the one thinking about going somewhere, here's something, right? And so
Wow.
I clicked on these real estate links and I was like, wow, maybe Belize is, something. And then, that year, a set of circumstances unfolded, right? And I believe in energy, and I believe in the universe, and these sets of circumstances made it impossible for me to be successful in the space that I was in. And so I was going to have to make a move. It might not have been an international move, but I was
Mhm.
literally going to have to switch up and change what I was doing. And I said to myself one day, maybe this is it. Maybe
I
this is
gotta
the
do
time.
something. I might as well jump.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I had this information, I had this information right here that someone had just sent me. And then I also had this drive and the circumstances that was pushing me, right? And so I said, hey, I'm gonna go and check it out. And then it just wonderfully happened. Yeah,
Wow. So
yeah,
when that all happened and it was like, we call this kind of like the universe, so everything is
yeah.
conspiring right in your
Mhm.
favor for this to happen. What were your first steps, for women who are just like, wow, that sounds great. You know what? I've been seeing, Costa Rica or, Jamaica or wherever. But I don't know how to do that. Like, how do I just leave and just
Yeah.
start a new life somewhere else? Like, what were your first steps?
Yeah, so fortunately for me, I have a background in change management and project management. And so I was able to rely on my tools.
Okay.
So, I'm going to do research. I'm going to remove barriers. I'm going to reach out and identify support systems, and I'm going to make a plan of actions and milestones for myself, right? I'm going to make this huge to-do list. I'm going to organize and put things in chronological order, right? I did all of that stuff, and most of it worked, and a lot of it also went out the window, because when you
Mm,
move, when you're doing some of this move, it's from the heart, as it should be. I
mhm,
mean, sometimes it's practical and for a specific purpose, but for me, it was from the heart. And so while I had this plan, I also just kind of knew that I needed to feel it out and do what felt good to me. And so, when I did things like rent out my house and send my teenage children to go live with their dad so that I can save money for 6 months, that wasn't necessarily part of the plan, but it was something that
mm,
helped move me forward, right? And it was
mm.
something that prepared me and my children for being apart from one another. I didn't even think about it in that way, but
Wow.
I just thought about it in the sense of I was removing a barrier. And a barrier to me moving out the country, I'm just going to keep it real, was that, oh, I have teenage children,
Yeah.
right? So either these kids come with me and I reacclimate them and me, or they stay here, or what? Like, you think through all of those things. And for me, the answer was bye. So I didn't become emotional about that thing, because I knew my kids were going to be okay. I
Mhm.
already had a village, and then I also had the wonderful blessing of having a good friend of mine who had raised her whole family apart from her family. Like, she and her husband lived in different states, and her children would kind of just do different things over the years, and just showed me that a family could be a family. And grow up and do different things in different ways, that it could work. They were not a broken family. They just decided to live this way, right? And so that just knew I already was a broken family. I was already a single mom. So I was like, I can't make this separation of circumstances any worse. So I'm like, I got the tools for this. I'm gonna go ahead and put myself in a place where I can be better so that my children can be better, even though I'm apart from them. Because at that time, that set of circumstances that I talked about was a set of circumstances that was killing me physically. And so I had to go to a place where I could heal. And then I could be a parent. I couldn't even think about parenting my teenage children who were getting ready to move into college in the circumstances and health condition that I was in. Okay. And I was still doing well and navigating all the things that you navigate in the US while broken physically and emotionally, not so much broken financially, but having been broken in the past life financially and come back from those things, you just get tired of being broken and you just want to, lick your wounds for a little while,
Oh,
so.
she said you get tired of being broken. Okay.
Right.
I mean, that's honestly, that's a whole word because, I teach a lot about self-care and I've talked about self-care everywhere, presentations everywhere. And I think that is, we talk about it in theory, but that's the ultimate implementation of self-care.
Absolutely.
I have to take care of me. I have to heal me. And if I have to say goodbye to you for a little while to do that, I'm willing to do that because that's what's necessary.
Yeah. And I don't know that I shared that sentiment or those thoughts as clearly as you did with the people around me, but I just kind of let my folks and my family know that this was really important to me. And it was the path that I needed to seek for myself for that next thing. It might have been recovery, it might have been healing or whatever, but it was the path. And I was just like, y'all are not going to talk me out of this. Yeah. And I think I clapped, because there were times in my life in past circumstances where I wanted to leave, where I wanted to go someplace else, and I let people talk me out of it, and I stayed. Okay, that's word right there. Yeah. I stayed when I felt that I should have gone or moved myself from that space. And I continued to allow myself to be poisoned by the toxicity of that environment, whether it was my work, whether it was industry, whether it was people, food, whatever it was. I made a choice to stay. So here I was in 2018 with my back up against the wall again, saying I'm not going to make that same choice. Yeah. And so Belize has been a blessing to me in that way. Did I look at other countries? For a minute I did. I considered Panama, I considered Colombia, even El Salvador. And I never considered anything in Europe. I just didn't want that influence. That energy. So I kind of gave myself a criteria, kind of close to home, multicultural, if not fully brown or Black. And economically, it had to be inexpensive to live there. And there's debates about whether Belize is inexpensive or expensive. But for me, it costs a whole lot less to live here in Belize. So
I think everything costs a whole lot less. It's living expenses are getting ridiculous. Like it doesn't even matter where you live anymore. It used to be the South. And, I was out in Vegas for 6 months. It used to be the South and the West, was cheap. And now it's the same prices. Like everywhere is the same. It's really gotten ridiculous. And I know for some people that is a motivation. It really sounds like this was a very intuitive process for you, that you made a decision, but ultimately what happened is you allowed yourself to really be intuitive and just go with the flow. And just allow it to happen as it needed to happen for you.
Yeah, I did. But, I don't think that was easy necessarily. I was able to do it and I was equipped to do it. But I feel like I've been through traumas before in my life. I've been through things that have made me have to reevaluate and navigate a little differently. And then also in the work that I do, as a consultant, my job was just to look around, to be an analyst, to see what the real situation is and to come up with solutions. And so for me, with the skill set that I had developed over the years in my life and work, I was able to sit still, right? I was able to navigate uncertainty. Don't get it wrong. There was the tears, you know,
Mhm.
there was sometimes doubt. You know, I can remember a conversation I had with my same wise girlfriend who said, you know, you on one coast and you getting ready to set sail to another coast and you just can't see the other coast yet. That don't mean you turn back. That don't mean you stop swimming or rowing or whatever you're doing. You continue till you can see that coast. And so there was a time period where I couldn't see that other coast, but I knew that I needed to continue navigating, right?
Mhm.
Um, I think that that is true for anyone who makes a drastic decision about change in their life.
That's really what it is. I think
Yeah.
most transitions, I don't care whether it's a divorce, whether it's a, you know, a career change, whether it's a health situation, you know, where you have to make different decisions for your lifestyle, they all require that. And I think what happens is a lot of us shortcut our success. And when I say shortcut, meaning that we really cut it off, is because we don't make those drastic decisions. We want to
Yeah.
stay safe. We
Yes.
want to stay safe. And so because we can't see the other coast, we
Mhm.
make different decisions that are not necessarily the best decisions for us, but they're comfortable.
They're comfortable, right?
And you
And you know
said,
when you swim back what you're going to be faced with, you know.
yeah.
So,
So it's like
yeah.
deal with the devil, you know, when in this
Mhm.
situation, it's like, listen, if I want the life that I want, I have to make those drastic changes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so for me, I wasn't seeking anything out specifically in a country. And there's some people
Mhm.
who are seeking in that way where they go and say, oh, I want to experience Eastern Asia and, you
Mhm.
know, certain spiritual cultures, or some people who say, you know, I want to travel, you know, the train, you know, Europe through Europe and things like that. I didn't have any of those things pulling me away. I had things pushing me,
I
so
love
to speak.
that. I
Yeah.
love that. But that's only because I think perspective, right? Because somebody else could have looked at it and thought that it's pulling me away, where you were able to see the signs and read the tea leaves and say, you know
Yeah.
what, this is telling me to keep going.
Yes, it's the handwriting on the wall.
Perspective is everything. So with
Yeah.
that, what was your greatest challenge, but then also what's been your greatest success?
Hmm. My greatest challenge. I think that they are the same.
Mm-hmm.
And the greatest challenge is keeping your eyes open to varying perspectives and cultures,
Mm-hmm.
and not taking your own perspective and applying it to the new set of circumstances that you're in.
I could so
And
totally get
I get reminded of that every single day, you know. And I love when people here refer to me as American, because it reminds me that I'm behaving inappropriately.
Oh, child, you an American. Like, can you imagine Americans like seeing that as an insult? I'm American. You know, we're so arrogant. You know,
I don't see it as an insult at all, not
we're
at
so
all.
arrogant. We go into other people's homes, other people's countries, like, yes, I'm American. You like, nope, that's an insult. Let me humble myself. Let me calm myself back down.
Yes, 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 you know, and so I didn't struggle with making friends, but I found myself finding it difficult to be in places where I could make friends.
Mm,
So when you go to a new environment, you tend to bring your same habits with you. So that means, oh, I'm gonna go to dinner at this location, or I'm gonna do my chores, whatever, you know. So I wasn't in spaces necessarily where locals might commune.
mhm.
I was in expat or tourist spaces. And so
Okay.
the conversations with those people who either work or play in there are typically limited because they know who their audience is. And so I had to find ways to integrate myself. And because I
Mm,
didn't want to be an expat, I wanted to be an immigrant. I wanted to move
mhm,
into a new country
mhm.
and be part of that space. And so um, I moved around the country for that reason. And so I sought out different opportunities and different activities, and lived in the northern part, the western part, southern part, which is where I reside now, to meet different people. And I learned a lot about Belize. And now it's like the best part. Like I don't really associate anymore with a whole lot of other Americans or Canadians. Like my best friends and family now are Belizeans,
I
and
love
that
it.
feels really good. That means I'm at home.
I love that. I mean, I think it's like you said in the beginning, like you really are living your best life and you've gone
Yeah.
through that journey. And, you know, instead of picking and choosing, no, I'm just going to be who I am and kind of integrate it all together. Yeah, because we're whole beings. We're supposed to be whole beings. So many of us are living like half beings, but yeah, we are supposed to be
Right.
whole. I think that's beautiful. So you mentioned your family. I love that you decided to choose you. And I think that a lot of women, especially women with children, possibly, you know, in relationships, married, definitely will be able to relate to that. And for you, so how's your family now? And how have you all been able to live with these different dynamics? Because, I mean, let's face it, marriage and family are changing.
Yeah.
They just are. And I think that, you know, part of the success is being able to go with the flow and not look at the old traditions and feel like you have to act according to that, but you have to do what's best for your family.
Yeah. So from a family dynamic standpoint, I have a small family. As a single mom, I had two teenage boys when I left. They're now adults, and a few siblings, and parents or grandparents nearby. And as the middle child, I kind of already stood out in the family, and I wasn't the rebel or the black sheep, but I've always kind of sung to my own tune. Once I made up my mind, I've done, to do something, you can count it as done. So I don't think my family was very surprised that I was doing something yet again.
That's not like my family, like that's just Ava Laura.
But what it has done, so they went with it, right? And, they're like, okay, they didn't have any fears because I didn't have any fears. And I was doing my best to communicate with them each step of the way. I don't think they thought it was going to be as permanent as it has become. I rented a house versus buying intentionally just to say, okay, well, if this doesn't work or if I don't like it, I can go back. And it's been so much better than that. Never ever thought about going back, by the way, and I'm not going back.
Wow.
My
I'll hear
son
that. She
is
said, I am not going back.
I was at home a few weeks ago to deal with my mom, who's elderly. My son asked me, and I was almost scared to answer him, but I, got to be truthful. He said, Mom, are you ever gonna come back here? And I was like, I don't know, maybe if you guys have family. And he said, yeah, what if we paid for your housing? I'm like, ding, 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 ding. I was like, I would love a condominium in National Harbor, son. Thank you very much. And I will come and visit you anytime. But what I think the dynamic is that they visit me here. I think
Okay.
I have just shown my children and my older siblings and family that we can be a family many different ways, that we don't have to be up under each other in the same roof. We don't have to even be in the same city or town, that we can love and support each other a number of different ways. And maybe COVID kind of pushed them a little bit. I
it's
already
so
had
true.
this mindset. And I think, the bringing down of the other relationships that they had into this distant space probably helped me be down here already, because I didn't go back during COVID. I stayed in Belize. I had to travel for some medical reasons during COVID, but I didn't leave like many people who said, oh, they didn't want to be shut down.
Right, they didn't want to be stuck
or country. No, I was like, I'm here, and this is what home is. I was like, if it was a hurricane, I wouldn't be leaving. I'd be here fighting a good fight with my neighbors. So
I love
this is it. Yeah.
I
So
love
I think that's how that's kind of changed us,
So how often do you go back to visit your family or friends or go back to the US?
Too often. Too often.
Not only does she not want to come back, but she don't even want to visit y'all.
It is so much better for them to visit me here. Facts. It just is, right? So I unfortunately, every time I've traveled, it's been for medical emergencies of my own or for other people.
Okay.
And so in the last year, I've been back 3 times. I'm also in medical school, and so I've traveled to the States for clinical. So maybe I go back about 4 times a year. Okay. And then I do other traveling to other destinations. I spent March this year in Jamaica the whole month, and then I spent December in South Africa. And so I'm not tied down like I was before in the States,
I think that's
to the
beautiful.
day-to-day grind. And so I can make some different choices about where I want to be. Yeah.
I think that's beautiful because like, I think also one of the obstacles is feeling like, once you go somewhere else, the traveling back and forth. And really what you're saying is you do what you do to make your life work. And so you can go back and forth. You can choose
Yeah.
to relocate and live somewhere else and then come back to the States or wherever you need to, and then go back,
Yeah. One of the things that I push myself with even today is limiting beliefs.
Mm.
We have certain beliefs about how life is supposed to be, or the rules about how we can operate. And so I tend to ask myself, why am I saying no, to something, and is the reason that I'm saying no real? Or is it, something that it exists out there? And then I end up going ahead and doing what I was doing because I'm like, oh, this is all in my head. So yeah.
I love that because that's probably one of the major breakthroughs when I'm working with my coaching clients is that's the first thing that we really have to work on is mindset and limiting beliefs. And just like you said, like so often we really believe that our beliefs are real just because they're our beliefs. And we don't actually question them like, well, where did they come from? Where did I get this from? Like, who gave this to me? And why do I believe it? And is it even real or true for me? And so I'm so glad that you said that because, again, I think that when you make a major move like this in your life, in any aspect of your life, it does require you to look at your beliefs and look at what you're holding on to because everything really is perspective. And just by being in a different environment, in a different country, I know your perspective has had to shift in so many ways.
It has had to shift. And not only another country, a developing country, I'm not going to say third world because people say that that's a derogatory term now, but where they just got their independence in 1981.
Wow.
And so Belize is really kind of still in the 80s in terms of its government, its approaches to everything across the board, from development to relationships to social beliefs to religion. I mean, literally. And so that's flipping everything that we believe and operate on in the US on its head, really. And so not that I have had to change to fit into that, but it's made me look at why Belize is Belize, or people here a lot differently, and because of the belief systems, things like that.
But what I love about that, it also sounds like there's opportunity for you to help the change in Belize, and I think that's a beautiful thing to feel like you had, because I think that's one of the things about America that can be such a burden. Is like you want to do something, you want to help, you want to create change, and it just seems like everything is stacked against you. Like there's really nothing you can do. You can go out there and protest, but what is that really going to do?
Right.
You can march, but what is that going to do?
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that. And so there's one thing that I kind of am sensitive about is that thing, being an immigrant in another country, and that I'm not so arrogant to always believe that my mindset or influence is the best influence or an appropriate influence for Belize. So I'm not going to come here and say, oh, y'all still using butane? Let me start a campaign for y'all to use natural gas. Or really, so they're mature and smart and intelligent and can make choices for themselves. And I think as Americans, we tend to go places and think that we're the best because we're Americans. And that's one of the grandest fallacies that exists within US patriotism, is that the US is the best country there is, and that
you done drank the Kool-Aid
and more capable. So much of we drank the Kool-Aid, so I'm very sensitive when I'm here about my desire to impact change, and why, if I'm looking at something, do I want to change it? Why do I initially think that it should be improved or it should look something else? And that was that first thing that I talked to you about being open to the cultural piece of being in a new place. I have to be able to step back and ask myself, why do I believe the things I believe about the people and places I'm experiencing? And that influences my friendships and relationships and my ability to be successful here. I cannot bring my American mindset into another country no matter what. I have to be willing and open to let it go. Like for real. Like for
That's
real,
a
let
whole
it go.
another, it's a whole
Think
word.
about seriously, and that takes a lot of courage, because think about yourself as an African American in the United States, and think about all the other nationalities that are coming into the US and what you feel about them and their behavior, right? You want Latinos to assimilate. You want them to adapt to speaking English. You want them to not play Latino music till 2 a.m. on the corner because you're in America, play some rap or some country. So I'm not gonna come down here,
Yeah.
and be mad that there's punta playing or telling them that, there needs to be some type of noise ordinance. So just, I'm going to come and I'm going to observe and I'm going to experience Belize the way the Belizeans do. And if they ask me to participate, I will willingly. That's just where I'm at, having been here and been in this country that's struggling on its own to find policies and practices for Belizeans to do well. I don't feel like I need to insert myself in that way.
I think I love that, because I do think it's very different than if you move to Europe or, like you said, someplace that is more developed. That's a whole other dynamic that I think a lot of people probably don't even think about. So I'm really glad that you spoke to that. And so for any of you who are watching or listening, who are thinking about going to developing countries, I think that is great advice to really look at. Just observe, be the fly on the wall, be the participant observer, and don't, be so quick. No. This is how we do it in America. Well, if you wanted how we did it in America, you would be in America. So
exactly. Exactly. One of the things that I observed here, and if you're not going to a developing country, you might not observe it so clearly, is the colonization that took place over the years is still very rampant. And so your heart kind of goes out for Belizeans, because you're like, man, if I was around in 1776 in the US or even in the 1800s, I would be experiencing exactly what Belizeans are experiencing, with all of these people who are to do, myself included, because I have means, coming down here and taking advantage of everything. So I'm just really, really, really sensitive to that colonizer mindset and influence. And as a Black person coming from the United States, I don't want to be a part of that here in Belize.
I love it. So do you have any advice for, women who really are just like, what, I do want to leave, for whatever their reasons are, all signs are pointing in that direction. What advice do you have for them? And what advice do you have for them in particular if they do decide that they want to go to a developing nation versus one that's already developed?
Yes. So the first advice is advice that I give everyone, and that is to lead with your heart, and then lead with your heart some more. Just start right there. Like whatever you're feeling is most important to you, or, that keeps you up at night or makes you come up in the morning. That's the thing that you should be following for first and foremost, and don't let anybody, pull you away from that. The other advice is to surround yourself with people that love you and whom you can reach out to when you need support. Not necessarily, oh, I need to fly back home kind of support, but just, people who you can say, hey, look, today I ain't see nobody. Or I was in this space and everybody was speaking, Spanish, and I couldn't keep up. Or I would like to go on a date and all of these men are here, blah, 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 whatever it is, right? Just pick your posse, your tribe, your people who you can turn to when you need to be lifted up. And the last piece I would say is don't ever, try not to doubt yourself. Because coming out of the United States, I can guarantee you that you're more equipped than you would ever think you are to face a whole lot than you ever think you will face. You got skills. You have more than a high school education, you're gonna make it, seriously, and then you're well sought after also. Everybody wants to be around you if you're a Black American woman. I'm just gonna say that,
Wow.
whether it's because of the commercial attraction to us or the
Mm.
natural, genuine attraction to us. Everyone wants to be in our space because we are magical. I can't say it any
And
other
I
way.
think that's so amazing because
Yes.
we're here and it's like we're
And
like
it's the complete
whatever.
opposite.
Yeah,
It's the
it's
complete
like
opposite of
you're
free.
nothing special.
Yes,
And then you leave and it's like, oh my God, I've
yes,
never
yes,
seen you. You're a
yes,
unicorn. Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. And that dynamic that switches in many ways. So in the US, you're struggling just to be an American. You're never looked at in the US as an American. You are looked down upon because you're a Black woman, right? And then when you leave the States, you are celebrated for being both. What?
listen, you making me want to leave, okay? Like, why am I fighting so hard? Like, life should be easy. I'm gonna just go where they appreciate me.
Where they appreciate you. Yeah, yeah.
Wow, that
Yeah,
is,
yeah. And
woo.
so that advice applies whether you're going to a first world nation or a developing
Mhm.
country. Here in Belize, there's some extra preparation. You got to like animals. You got to like wildlife. I found a scorpion in my bed last week.
Oh no.
They're here, lizards, iguanas, nature. So that's the tropics, a developing country. While we've been doing this interview, my power flickered twice. I thought we were going to lose connectivity.
Wow.
So losing power, losing internet,
Mhm.
um, is second nature. You don't get upset about those things. You just walk to the beach instead of doing this. You go for a hike, you sit still, or
Mm.
so it takes a certain amount of strength and fortitude to put yourself in a place where you don't have Amazon, where you don't have commercial amenities. Now you can import anything. I'm just gonna start right
Mhm.
there. You can create
Mhm.
the space that you want, but Belize in its of itself is not a country that practices having those things. And
That's good
so,
to
and,
know.
and that's by design. It's the jewel of the Caribbean. It is not developed. We have four main highways: the northern, the southern, the western, and the coastal. That's what they call for real.
Wow.
And the coastal isn't even finished being paved yet.
Oh my
So,
God, I can't
and
even
most of
imagine.
our lanes or roads within villages are not paved, you
Wow.
know.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking about a country like Belize, that's just something that you have to, think about. And I love that. I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
I know how to drive on these roads now. I did not when I came.
I'm
So
listen, yeah, that's the whole thing. I remember being in Africa and even, other parts of the Caribbean, you like, I could never drive here. So that is a feat in its own. But I love that. I just love that mentality because we get so high strung. Oh my God. So yeah, when the power goes out, go to the beach. We don't do that here. We'd be like, oh my God, the power is out. What am I gonna do?
right, 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 right. I
It's a
mean,
whole meltdown, it's a whole thing. So
you find yourself questioning yourself, like, why did I do this? Or why did I think that, from anything to wearing underwear to, styling your hair and wearing makeup, to just shopping and what you're spending money on. You're like, wow, I was really, really duped, into this whole status quo, thing. And I'm not knocking it because, there is some greatness and wonder and benefit of it all. But at the end of the day, most of us got beat up or are getting beat up
it's
by
exactly. I was about to say past tense. No, it's still going.
it. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm laughing, but it's not funny. It's like you got to laugh to keep from crying. Uh, No, thank you for that. And lastly, and I do want to give you a chance to talk about your work because Barbara and I will be working on some retreats for next year. So, tell us all a little bit about that. And through that, are there other places that you have visited, maybe that you think are really good for, Black women to say, hey, you know what, you might want to try here. This might be a good place to settle.
Yeah, yeah. So my work now is focused on women, just the edification, the uplifting, the empowerment, and the betterment of women, coming out of my own struggle and just knowing that we are the group of people that just need that right now. That's been my focus for some years, and I'm gonna continue doing that. And how I do that is by creating safe spaces for women to convene and to commune together. Usually focus on a specific topic or area within our communities that we want to improve upon, whether it's transformation or some particular healing that needs to take place. And, so I do that in the larger community space. In the smaller community space, I help women executives grow their business. So I will sit down and coach CEOs and executives on anything, whether it's business development or leadership. And that's one-on-one, that's not in a group space. And also I'm just bringing these two together because I hear my women leaders talk about how they need mindfulness in the corporate space. And so that's really what I'm doing with the work in Ayurveda, is how I'm helping people heal and create balance, and so that they can operate better in their day-to-day, whether it's work or home environments. And I say that I'm doing all these things, but I'm not working a 9 to 5. I plan my own schedule.
Yeah.
I put people in spaces in my calendar where it makes sense for me. There's no pressure, right? And so if I want to spend an hour today or the whole day having conversations with people, I do. Or if I want to, so that's really the change in operations. So I have all these responsibilities and passion projects that I'm working on, but I'm moving them forward at my own clip. And there was a second part to that question.
Yeah, and so with that, and particularly with the retreat space with She Retreats, have you been anywhere that you've seen, like, you know what, I think Black women, and we're all different, we're not monolithic, but this would be a great place to be, like this.
So I do like Belize for us. Belize requires the people who come here to have a certain amount of strength, which we have, which Black women always have. But Belize also surrounds people. Then the jungle surrounds you, the community surrounds you, because Belizeans have to be unified to support themselves. So I got sick here in Belize. I almost died here in Belize. And the people that came to my rescue, who drove me to the hospital at midnight, were not people that I knew 3 months prior.
Wow.
People who shut down their business to sit with me in a hospital, who sent their kids away with someone else to make sure that this American expat was taken care of, was not anyone that I knew 3 months prior. So I believe that Black women can find a wonderful place here in Belize. If you can do some of the things we talked about before, letting go of the status quo, your belief systems and things like that. The other place that I believe is on my radar for Black women is Jamaica. It's always been a place for Black women to go to, but Jamaica just is welcoming of outside, and I think that they are going to protect us and put an arm around us. So those are the top 2 places, the Caribbean nation. I'm going to recommend any brown country for us generally.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
No, I love that though, that community, because we've so lost that. Like we do not.
Even on the continent.
God, we've lost that. I mean, I look around and I was, just talking to somebody. I was like, I really don't even know my neighbors, and I don't like the ones that I know. Yeah. And it didn't used to be that way, so to hear that, you're in a situation, people who you don't even know, are the ones that lifted you up and took care of you. I can't even imagine that here.
Yeah, it wouldn't happen. And so I also had an opportunity to work for a large employer here in Belize when COVID first shut down. And I was responsible for helping them develop their COVID policies. And even the companies here in Belize were doing things like paying for childcare, paying for transportation, because transportation systems shut down and there was no public transportation, but people had to get to work. So that meant every employee was in an individual taxi, which Belizeans can't afford, but we need to get people, in place. And that's what I mean by Belize has a different mindset about supporting one another for the good of everyone, right? Because they knew if they supported their employees, the company would be better off. Oh, what a foreign concept is that, right? We're not gonna let you have your maternity leave for as long as you need it so that you will be better off. You're going to get back in here and hustle. And then, anyway, I digress.
Right.
So,
No, but we over here fighting student loan battles right now. Like, can we not? Can we just not?
Oh, yeah. So I think Belize is good for Black women in that regard. The only thing, there's a little caveat, right? When you talk about places for Black women to consider leaving America, in going anywhere, but particularly our Latin nations, mestizo country, you talk about how Black women show up, right? I've been described as strong and aggressive in the United States, right? So just imagine how the dynamic here with, I hate to say machismo because that's an outdated term, but I think you get the mindset about the roles that women should play, so the roles that men should play in our society and coming and going. And so I have challenged myself in terms of my beliefs and have found myself in a wonderful place, honestly, because I have just let that culture be that culture. And I have allowed myself to be in it and just experience it and not criticize it or prejudge it based on my US mindset about the role and the position that a woman should be in. Okay. I said that kind of fast, but what I did was I allowed me to put my beliefs aside, not diminish them, because my values are my values. They don't go away. I'm still, a woman, and I have my feminine principles and my boundaries about how I should be treated. However, I allowed myself to value that male perspective of how they show up in the room with women. I'm trying to just make it make sense.
No, I think, oh my God, like this is a whole topic. And we don't have time for it today. But what I find interesting, because roles are definitely shifting, right? And the family structure shifts. So many things are shifting right now. But I think what happens is when we take something, or just even if it's machismo, and we take it out of its sort of origin, if you will, it shifts, it changes, and where it might be different if it is in its certain culture, but then it comes into American culture and it's no way that it can really work, if that makes sense. It's kind of like if everybody's sort of playing their role, then it works, but if not, then it's not going to work. And so I can understand that perspective of, again, just allowing it to be and looking at it for what it is and what it could be. And just coming with that open mind and seeing, okay, well, you know what, this right here actually works. Yeah. This part may not work for me, but in order to see what works and what doesn't work, you have to allow yourself to experience it.
There you go.
Yeah. I get it. I love that. I love that. This has been awesome. I think that the women watching and listening are going to have get so much value and so many different ways of thinking, from your story and from what you've shared. Any final thoughts?
My only final thoughts is, if you're thinking about going, go out there and look around, go and travel, see things, ask questions, explore, challenge yourself. If you have questions, hit me up. I do want to offer a free gift to anyone who's watching this. So I do have a ebook called the 100 Affirmations, or 100 Guiding Affirmations for Women Who Travel. And so if anyone reaches out to me via email, DM, however you reach out, I'm going to gift you with that book. So those affirmations keep me strong, and I think anyone can benefit from that. So that's my farewell to people today. Thank you
so much. This has been awesome. Thank you all for watching and listening. I hope you took notes. I hope that you really benefited from it. Feel free to reach out to us. And this is Black Women Leave America, where women have to leave in order to find ourselves. And we'll see you next time.